when your home lit.
शांत मन से मैं तेरी ओर चल पड़ा, ओ मेरे शिव बाबा तेरे प्यार में घुल पड़ा।
शांत मन से मैं तेरी ओर चल पड़ा, ओ मेरे शिव बाबा तेरे प्यार में घुल पड़ा। तेरी रोशनी की बातें, तेरी शांति की दास्तां,
तेरी रोशनी की बातें, तेरी शांति की दास्तां, हर सांस में तू ही तू, हर धड़कन में तेरा नाम। ओम शांति, ओम शांति, शिव बाबा प्रेम की रोशनी मुझको भर दे, मुझको छू ले अपनी कोमल दिव्यता से। शांत मन से मैं तेरी ओर चल पड़ा, ओ मेरे शिव बाबा तेरे प्यार में घुल पड़ा।
आत्मा की यात्रा मैं ज्योति बिंदु आत्मा, आत्मा की यात्रा मैं ज्योति बिंदु आत्मा।
तू सर्वोच्च प्रकाश, तेरी प्रेम धारा से हो जाता हूँ मैं उदासीन हर त्रास। शांत मन से मैं तेरी ओर चल पड़ा, ओ मेरे शिव बाबा तेरे प्यार में घुल पड़ा। ओम शांति, ओम शांति, शिव बाबा प्रेम की छाया मन के आकाश में फैल जाए, तेरी शांति का मधुर साया। शांत मन से मैं तेरी ओर चल पड़ा, ओ मेरे शिव बाबा तेरे प्यार में घुल पड़ा।
शांत मन से मैं तेरी ओर चल पड़ा, ओ मेरे शिव बाबा तेरे प्यार में घुल पड़ा। परम धाम की नीरवता में तेरी ममता बहती है,
परम धाम की नीरवता में तेरी ममता बहती है। गहरा सा सुख मिलता है जब तेरी नजर मुझे देखती है। ओम शांति, ओम शांति, शिव बाबा प्रेम की छाया मन के आकाश में फैल जाए, तेरी शांति का मधुर साया।
तू ही मेरा रक्षक है, तू ही सत्य
जो आराम, बस एक ही है दिलाराम।
दिल को देता जो आराम, बस एक ही है दिलाराम।
ए दिल मेरे सुना, क्यों तू है फिर उदास? लोगों के पास यहाँ तो सुनने का वक्त कहाँ।
सुन भी ले कोई तुझको राय, होगी अपनी अपनी।
पर सच में हल तो कोई उनकी होगी नहीं सयानी। दिल को देता जो आराम, बस एक ही है दिलाराम। दिल को देता जो आराम, बस एक ही है दिलाराम। चाहे समस्या कितनी भी क्यों ना भारी लगे, उसकी ज्ञान शक्ति से ही प्रकाश तेरे भीतर जगे।
जब विश्वास होगा उसी में और दिल में हो सच्चाई,
हर इच्छा होगी पूरी, बस मन में हो अच्छाई। दिल को देता जो आराम, बस एक ही है दिलाराम। दिल
सर्वप्रथम 1974 में आपने ब्रह्मा कुमारी संस्था के संपर्क में आए। तत्पश्चात उन्होंने राज्यों की विद्या सीखी और तुरंत ही शिक्षिका बनने का उन्होंने सोचा, शिक्षक बनने का सोचा। तो उस प्रकार से उन्होंने ट्रेनिंग ली और तुरंत ही उनको जब वापस आपका कर्मभूमि ऑस्ट्रेलिया जब भेजा गया तो आपने सेवाओं की पलछी लगा दी। जैसे राज्यों की विद्या सीखी और जीवन की विधि विधान उनकी बदल गई और अनेकों को प्रेरणा देने के लिए परमात्मा परिचय देते तो विधि पूर्वक ब्राह्मण जीवन उनका दूसरों को भी आप समान बनाने का शुरू कर। फिलहाल ऑस्ट्रेलिया में 40-50 से भी ज्यादा सेंटर्स हैं और आप सभी ब्रह्मा कुमारी सेवा केंद्रों के मुख्य कह सकते हैं एक नेशनल कोऑर्डिनेटर है। और क्या कहें भाई साहब तो माँ है हमारी। काफी बात है। भारत के भारतवासी दादियां हैं, दीदियां हैं। जो ब्रह्मा कुमारी सेवा केंद्र पे जाते हैं तो दादियां दीदियां मिलेंगी। विदेश के शरीर में हमारे लिए दादा बड़े दादा अनेकों को बहुत प्रेरणा है। हमने तो बहुत लेकिन की बात हम सुनाते जो हमारे दिल को बहुत छूती। 2 साल पहले की बात है, नेशनल कोऑर्डिनेटर्स की हमारी रखी। आप बहुत प्यार से बाबा के वहां आके पढ़ते हैं तो महावाक्य के बाद 2 मिनट में अपना 2 मिनट 20 मिनट सुनाते हैं कि वहां पर ब्रेकफास्ट मिलता है ना, सभी भीड़ जाएंगे तो ये हो जाएगा। तो आपने 20 मिनट अपना लोग मुरली के आधार से और अनुभव से मिलाकर आपने सुना। तो आपका एक अनुभव उन्होंने सुना कि बाप मिलन के समय पे भी एक ऐसे मिलन पे आप स्टेज पे गए, बाबा से दृष्टि में। उस समय वो शायद 2 मास रह चुके हैं मधुबन में, तो लगातार काफी समय बाबा से मिले और जाना नहीं चाहते थे वापस अपना सेवा के लिए, परंतु उनको समय पर उनको वापस जाना पड़ा। तो बाप दादा से मिलन करने के बाद तो वो ऐसे बाबा से दृष्टि ले रहे थे। तो बाबा ने कहा, अच्छा एक बात बताओ, तुम जा रहे हो, हम छुट्टी ले। तो बाबा ने पूछा, एक बात बताओ, क्या जहाँ तुम जा रहे हो सेवा केंद्र पर सभी संतुष्ट है क्या तुमसे? और उनको क्या बताना समझ में नहीं आ रहा था, क्योंकि अलग अलग प्रकार के स्वभाव संस्कार वाले होते हैं। तो हम सब सुनने वाले 500 लोग थे ऐसे सेवा केंद्र के निमित्त भाई बहन। तो हम सब की दिल की हाल जैसे भाई साहब बाप दादा को सुना रहे थे। तो थोड़े बड़ी लंबी पॉज के बाद दृष्टि लेते लेते क्या बोलना है उनको अंदर से नहीं आया, क्या बोलूं बाबा को कहते। तो बाबा ने मुस्कुरा के बोला, चिंता नहीं करो, बहुत आत्माएं बाबा से भी संतुष्ट नहीं। तो ये बात सुनकर हम सबको राहत मिली। सबने बड़ी लंबी सी ऐसे श्वास लिया और कहा, चलो हम लोग कोई अलग या गलत रास्ते पे नहीं, सभी एक नाव में चल रहे हैं। दूसरों को संतुष्ट करना बहुत बड़ी बात होती है, क्योंकि अलग अलग स्वभाव संस्कार हर एक की यात्रा अलग है। और आज का वही टॉपिक है, फ्यूचर विदाउट फियर। प्रवीण भाई, आप क्रिकेट इज द cricket club association president, and then he has a lot of teams, cricketers. So recently, a few weeks before, he came with his team of cricketers. About 18 to 20 cricketers were there, and we had a nice session. And that day we celebrated also one UN festival for the fair play. And at that time, they raised a question, and they said, what to do in order to be free from the fear of future. So that's where the question has come. So I thank Praveen Bhai for giving this question to us, which has become a topic. जोरदार करता धोनी से हम लाइव sharing about your experience that you shared in NCCC once. So you can do the transitions.
Om Shanti. And welcome. It's lovely to be here. I think I've mentioned quite a few already, but it's my second time to Nigeria, just right here last night. And tonight I'll just share a few thoughts and we'll have a little bit of time for some questions and discussion as well. Some say there's two prime emotions in life, love and fear. And some even say that love is letting go of fear. And all of us just know how paralyzing fear can be. But on the other hand, we also know how life-transforming love can be. And in Australia, some years ago, I knew a woman called Lynn. She was a mother of a friend of mine. Very, very sweet person, but she would describe herself as a little bit anxious, a little bit fearful. And she contracted cancer. And that made her very much more anxious and more fearful. And one day her son rang me and said that she's in hospital and she's a terminal patient. So I went along to see her, and I have it so clear in my mind, that scene, that it was just sunset. It was getting very dark, and I walked into the hospital and she was staying right down the end of a long passage. And when I walked into her room, the whole room was completely dark. And I didn't want to disturb, so I tiptoed in so quietly and sat. And then I was just sitting there in silence, and then out of the dark came this voice. And this lady, Lynn, she said, "Charlie, I love you." And it was so uncharacteristic of her. And it was almost like she realized, I'm going to pass away soon, so I may as well be the person I really want to be. It's almost like she let go of her fear and she began to express the real person. And I can remember thinking at the time, often in life, we're so fearful of what people will think, what people will say of me, what society will say. So we hold back our real personality rather than really express my beauty and express my love. So it really taught me just how to actually express who I really am. And when I look at the things I value in my life, I would say I really value the experience of love. And always when I observe myself, when the heart is full of love, it changes your whole personality. You feel quite easy, quite relaxed, and very much more compassionate and understanding of others. To me, the most powerful thing in life is a loving heart. A loving heart can break down barriers between people. A loving heart can fill empty hearts. A loving heart is so powerful. But at the other end of the spectrum is fear. And the millisecond the mind is filled with fear, the heart begins to palpitate, the stomach churns, adrenaline just courses through your system. And just as love is the seed of so much positive emotion, I would say that fear is the seed of so much negative emotion. You feel tense, you feel anxious, you feel stressed, and you can't sleep, you can't relax, you can't concentrate. And once I was hearing about the effect of the relationship really between the heart and fear. If someone was to run in this room now and say there's a fire in this center, what's the first thing that happens? Before we all run for the door there, even before that, the heart goes boom, 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 boom. If every day I wake up and I have fear of an outcome, I have fear of a personality, I have fear of a situation in my life, it's putting pressure on my heart. My heart is just a little pump. And so dealing with fear is not only just about emotional, it's also even about health as well. What is fear? I would say fear is an emotional experience and anticipation of danger, evil, or pain, whether real or imagined. And actually, most of our fear is imagined fear, and that is what anxiety is. And once I was talking in a little place in South Africa, and we were talking about these things, and someone put up his hand and said, how much fear is real and how much is imagined? My answer was, I wouldn't have a clue. But he said, I Googled it, and you know, all truth lies on Google these days. And it said, you know, 80 to 90% of all our fear is imagined fear. And so this really, so much of our fear is created in our own mind. And I feel one of the incredible things of spirituality is that it's not a psychological approach to dealing with fear. When I have truth deep in my life, a lot of my fear will automatically go. Because most of my fear is based on falsehood, perceptions of life which aren't really true. And the first type of fears, I would say, are like physical fears. And these are like the fears of, you know, loss of health, old age, illness, a loss of wealth, material things. At the heart of physical fears is the fear of loss. And it's not just a loss, you know, the ultimate fear for most of us is the loss of this body. It's not just the loss of my body, it's the loss of my reputation. It's the loss of my image in life. It's the loss of so many things that I've really attached my heart to. And I would say this journey, the first step on the journey of dealing with fear is to understand that the only permanent thing in life is change. The only permanent thing is change. Life is all about change. And we had a session just earlier, and I was sharing that, you know, life, a metaphor is life is like a train journey. And you know, when you sit in a train and you stop at the station, people hop on the train and people pop off the train, and that keeps happening. Eventually you pop off the train. The train is life. People come into your life, they go out of your life. Wealth comes in, wealth goes out. There's always change. The way that we sort of follow a path of falsehood is when I attach my heart to something temporary. The law of life says when I attach my heart to anything temporary, I'm the one that builds fear and insecurity in my life. And a lot of us think, well, that's the way we live life. That's life today. We become very, very dependent. That dependence brings, you know, so much fear. And wisdom is to enjoy everything, love everyone, but not attach my heart. But what is the constant in all this change? What is the constant? It's the permanent self, the soul. And this is where spirituality says, when I base my life on that which is permanent, and when I understand the reality of life is I always exist, I'm a soul, but ultimately I can never own anything. Once I begin to make this more my foundation, I start to really let go of fear. But within all of us, there's like three personalities, and I would say two of them really create a lot of fear in my life, but one of them starts to free me from fear. And the first personality is like my ego in a sense. And when my ego is ruling in my inner system, and really in a sense, whenever I think I relate, who am I? I think of myself as the temporary body. My ego is an attachment to a false sense of who I am. I'm actually a soul, but I forget that. I believe it intellectually, but I don't live it. And so I attach myself to this temporary identity. And then I start to feel afraid that people see through my facade, that actually I'm not as confident or as good as I look. Because often we create this image in life to present the life to others, but what is really in me is something different. And so that first personality, my ego, really and doesn't sort of creates a lot of fear in my life. The second personality is the ego of inferiority, my lack of self-respect. And this is also the sort of the flip side of ego, perhaps we could say. And when this personality is really driving my inner world, I feel afraid of being loved, rejected, not included, a whole lot of things like this. And so we fluctuate. And this is why the first step is really in dealing with my fear is to understand that there's nothing but change going on. This is the eternal reality of life. And when I attach my heart to anything, I build fear into my life. But the second is to really know and experience who I am. And if I was to say to you, all of you here know you are a soul, know you are the Atma. Everyone has been brought up since this time. But we don't experience it. And spirituality is really converting what I know into what I feel. Because the more I live as a soul, I experience, not just believe, I can never, ever die. I always exist. And as soon as that is tasted and felt, the whole account of fear has less and less power over me. And this is why this whole life is really about practicing, implementing on a daily basis. And I've been a BK now for 50 years. And I'd say every day, almost all the time during the day, I am trying to apply the understanding of who I am. And, to me, it's like the education you learn out there. You fill your head with so much information. Here, we take one idea, who am I? And we go deeper and deeper and deeper. We unpack that truth till I feel it, I taste it. And really that takes me into a more fearless state, I would say. But the second type of fears is what I would call psychological fears. And these are like a mental fears of change or failure, emotional fears of being rejected or not being loved or whatever. But there's something they call in psychology, which is a phobia. And it used to be called an irrational fear. There's about 400 phobias that human beings have. So this is like a fear of the dark, a fear of the unknown, a fear of confined spaces, a fear of going outside, a fear of flying in planes. And, in psychology, they call them irrational fears, but they're not irrational at all. They're directly connected to my past. And so when you unpack the truth of who I am, the soul in a way is an overname for three aspects of consciousness. Your mind, and your mind is like, receives all the information of life from your sense organs. So what you see, what you hear is thrown up on the screen of the mind. The intellect assesses the information. So as I'm speaking now, you are thinking, oh, I agree with that, I don't agree with that. Yes, I like that, I don't like that. You know, that part of you assessing. We do an action, and every action is recorded neatly in my subconscious. So we're sitting here quietly in the present, but we carry an entire record of our past. And when I have a negative experience, it's recorded. So when I come in front of a similar experience in the present, I go back to that recording and it tells me to be afraid. If as a child I'm bitten by a dog, you know, even years later, that's recorded in my subconscious, and I see a dog and instantly I am fearful. If as a child I don't feel I was really loved closely, and when I come into relationships, sometimes I carry the fear that people won't really give me that love or belonging. So these, in fact, are not irrational fears at all. They're very much based on my past. And one of the whole reasons that we meditate is to clear the account of the past. And as I clear the account of my karmic story, I actually clear the account of fear as well. Because I honestly believe in life, many of our decisions are made on the basis of fear, which distorts, it really limits my capacity to be the person I can really be. Because we become so afraid of imagined outcomes, maybe this, maybe that, and especially in this world. So my fear is influencing the quality of my life and, you know, what will happen to me in the future. Even I would say that the fear we have sometimes with dealing with certain personalities. On the spiritual journey, I begin to realize that I'm a soul. And sometimes we just think, oh, we imagine that. But really, as I become detached from my body, I feel that I'm so lightly sitting in the forehead, to the point that we can almost clearly understand death. Death, the soul just leaves its body and takes on another body. It's the most natural process. But sometimes in life, we have fear of authority personalities in our life, our bosses or a husband or a parent or something like this. And that can be really one of the most difficult experiences to deal with. And when I start to see beyond the body and see the soul, and that actually starts to diffuse these fears we have in relationships. But sometimes if I sort of see this person in their position and role, I often position myself to have fear. And I would also say that we have the physical fears, and by knowing who I am, I can deal with those. The psychological fears, understanding the journey of the soul. But I've had many past experiences which are recorded. And when I come in front of something similar, you know, fear comes into my mind. I remember one lady telling me in Australia, they always teach little children to swim because all the cities are on the water. And a lot of little children start before they can walk. They get in the water. And one mother was telling me she had 4 children. 3 of them loved the water. You know how little kids just love water. One of them, she said, as soon as she went near water, she would scream and have a panic attack. Because she would have a recording in her past of some experience around water. And it wasn't logical in her mind. She didn't know why she felt that. And this helps us understand sometimes why even when someone says to me, or share your opinion, you even feel fearful expressing what you really feel on your opinion, because sometimes we've lived in societies where that opinion wasn't welcomed. And so the more I begin to understand the soul, the more I begin to understand how I carry my karmic story, the more I begin to understand how I've collected fears in my life. And this whole journey of spirituality is to start to settle this account of my past actions, which begins to settle the account of fear. And I would say the third type of fears you could perhaps call spiritual fears. And these are really fears of the unknown, fear of sorrow and pain, emotional, even physical, fear of my own dishonesty, because we are all governed by universal laws. And universal laws say for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if I've transgressed universal truth, if I've done something against my truth or even the values of humanity, I often fear the repercussions of that. And that's why really, I would say the best policies in dealing with fear is to be honest, 100% honest in my life. Because if I'm not honest, the guilt and shame, the fear of perhaps people knowing about that really creates a great discomfort. And my conscience really becomes heavy. Once I was running a seminar in a country, and one of the people who came asked to speak to me. We had a 3-day retreat. And he said that he had a government position in the country. And his wage wasn't that much, and he wanted to send his children to university in the UK, in England. So he said he took bribes all his life. And you know what he said to me? I've given my children a good life because they went to university. I've ruined my own life. He said that. And I said, why? He said, I'm so terrified. I have so much fear that my community will find out I'm not the person that they think I am. You know how, and this is where I think when we do actions against our truth, against our principles, against our values, you know, often my desire for material things or my desire for something really distorts my truth. And I may get that thing, but in the long term, it can really make me very fearful and uncomfortable. And that's why really, the more I understand that there's nothing but change going on, the more I understand and experience who I am as a soul, the more I understand this amazing journey of life where I do actions and I reap the fruit of those actions. And the more I really live absolutely honestly against my truth, I start to settle my account of fear. And to liberate myself from fear is an amazing feeling of well-being, I would say. But here, I think what we learn is to have a relationship with God. And I think this is really like when I learned to have a loving relationship with myself as a soul and a loving relationship with God. This also gives me the power to really face my fears. And at the heart of Raja Yoga, at the heart of this life, is this soul-to-soul relationship with the Supreme Soul. And I often think of it that I'm a soul and I'm expressing to you through my body. You can see me talking, actually, I think, and expressing. God is a soul like me, but God is a soul that doesn't have a body, but a living, conscious soul. And I want to communicate with God. Sometimes I think that God is a soul like me, an ocean of love and peace. And God's like a generator, and I'm a battery that needs, strengthening. And so if I want to have a relationship with God, it's like God is on the FM wave, eternally soul conscious. When I, the soul, forget the self and I'm caught up in the sense organs of my body, my reality is my temporary self. Then it's like I'm on the AM dial. And so I can't really connect. I can believe in God. And this is like religion. I pray, I have a belief in God, but I can't really connect with God. It's when I go up to the soul conscious level, when I really do that work to become soul conscious, I'm resonating on the same frequency. And this relationship, something just happened there, this relationship becomes such a real relationship. It's not that I'm meditating on a concept or a belief or an idea. I'm having a real living relationship with what I often call the lover of the soul. And really, in this time of the world where fear is rising every day, anxiety is rising every day. Why? Because everyone's concerned about the future. And the big question absolutely everywhere is what will happen? What will happen to me? What will happen to my family? What will happen? What will happen? And that question is just, anxiety is just exponential at the moment. And when I really developed this real living relationship, I, the soul, with the one relationship that's permanent, the one relationship that goes beyond, you know, my bodily relationships, in a sense, birth and death. And I really experiment in that relationship. I think you develop so much courage to face all my fears and deal with all my fears. What I feel about this time is that everything out there is changing so fast. And unless I center my inner world by knowing the self and having a living relationship with God, what happens is all this change keeps knocking me over or making me insecure or making me afraid or worrying or fearful. And this is such a time to really not just sort of believe in spirituality, but practice spirituality. To me, that's the message of our time at the moment. To know and experience who I am and know and experience God as well. So I said to Sister Gautami that I'll just share a little bit, about half an hour or so, but if we have a little bit of time for some questions or comments, and then we can finish with a little meditation. So would anyone like to ask something? Please feel free, you're most welcome. Let's begin.
Recently, I've spent some time in my village.
Do we need a microphone?
Speak louder.
No, the online is other. They also.
Maybe for this first question, you speak up and then while the microphone's coming.
Okay. Today I came with the intention of asking one question, which I really want answer for that. Because like 3 months I spent with my family to the village. And I saw all my family members are having only one thing in mind, what people will say. So that fear is very common in our. And I was not having any answer for that. Any act we want to do, we are not thinking it is right or wrong. We are thinking that how people will react about it, what people will say. So I don't know, it's a big family, and everybody talks about same thing. So today I will come with this question and see at least how I can answer them.
No, I'd say such a common fear today we have of what other people will think of me. Why? Because I think we've lost our self-respect, and to receive respect, I want it through the others, because I haven't got self-respect myself, so I need respect from you. And so I have so much fear that you may not respect me. So if I contravene society's rules, even though, you know, I feel all the cultural things which we all have in all cultures, societies, rules, what are they based on? They're based on body consciousness, they're based on falseness. And yet we hold on to them so strongly what is a good life. We need to respect, but not be so fearful of them. And I think we need to have that balance of giving regard to people, because everyone's under the influence of these things, but not taking fear and acting under this fear myself. That, if I do something that other people disapprove of, they will dislike me, because we're so fearful of being disliked. The biggest fear in human beings is being rejected or disliked by others. Why? Once again, because I haven't, I haven't got self-respect. When I live in self-respect, actually, I won't have that fear of trying to, please people. Then we become people pleasers in life. And so I think to free myself of that fear, but still have respect for people who are under this society sort of rules and conditions, which anyway I find very false. A lot of them anyway, they're very false. Yeah. Fear of others, of opinions of me is a huge thing. You think if one person, I often say, if you have 100 friends and relatives, 99 love you and one hates you, who do you think about? Who do you think about? You become obsessed with this one person. Why? Why don't we think, isn't it great, 99 people love me? We think, but what we think is one hates me. And this is because really, what's the seed of all this? We've lost our spiritual strength. And we're trying to get all the affirmation for the person I am from the external world. You praise me, I'm up, but if you insult me, I'm down, I'm like a puppet dancing to the tune of life out there. What we're trying to do is rebuild the life in here, take back my sense of spiritual strength and self-value and self-respect. This is really spirituality. And if I really look at my life, I think I was quite sensitive to what people thought of me. And I'm still aware of it, but I don't take it to heart anymore. Yeah. And it's a freedom, actually. It's an absolute freedom.
Fear is connected to perception also.
Yeah.
People going through the same scenario, one may see opportunity and one may see danger.
Absolutely. Yeah. But everything is perception, isn't it? And one of the most incredible things in life is to realize we assume that people see scenes of life in a similar way, but we interpret them so differently. I have an older brother, and he and his wife, they live in Melbourne, and they have a big circle of friends, and they always go out and have dinner with their friends. And my sister-in-law used to like to debrief on the way home on the conversations. And my brother's perception was so different from hers. My brother's name is Richard. She used to say, Richard, did we go to the same dinner party? His perception was so different. And who's been in a meeting with people and you sit down and say, that was a great meeting. And someone said, that was terrible, our perception is just so fascinating in that way. It's why I think spirituality heals on so many levels. Because when I see the perception of life through the filter of truth of who I am, who God is, what everyone is a soul playing their part in the drama of life, you have the framework to interpret life accurately. You're seeing otherwise emotions, past karmas just distort and I have created a lot of fear in situations when it's not there, just like you're saying. Anxiety can kick in, absolutely.
Even though at present we are happy.
Sorry?
Even though we are present, we are happy. And right now I'm happy. If
any situation occurs, the old fears trigger sometimes. How to overcome that?
So I didn't quite catch that little bit.
Actually, at present, I'm happy only. But sometimes if any situation occurs, the old fears triggers me a lot and both will come into the place. The argument starts. How to overcome that?
Well, first is to realize that, you know, I'm carrying a karmic story and in my memory track. And so a scene of life can trigger a loss of confidence, can trigger some disturbance, can trigger some anger, can trigger some hurt. And this is the normal human life at the moment. We're just triggered. And so sometimes we even design our life to avoid people and situations we know that trigger this discomfort in me. And that's where, rather than avoiding them, I really go on the path of self-transformation, because meditation, spirituality, practicing, I begin to change myself. So rather than fearing the trigger, I change the trigger. I'm not triggered anymore. Now that takes time and that takes patience. That's really what the journey is, that I don't have any fear. I can go anywhere with any sort of people. And I feel secure in myself because of my spirituality. And I don't feel afraid that maybe something will happen and it will make me uncomfortable. You know, spirituality is often the opposite. You know, when you feel anxious inside, uncomfortable with a certain group of people or a situation, we want to avoid it. We want to run in a different direction. But spirituality says, I have to look at that discomfort. Why am I feeling uncomfortable? And learn from it. And this is really, by spirituality is really, you become honest with yourself, but you start to change yourself. In a way, you're freeing yourself from all those triggers so that you have the confidence, I can go into the future and not feel fearful of what might happen, the anxiety levels, that things may happen. Yes. But what you just described is very normal. But you said you're happy at the moment. That's a huge achievement to be happy in this world. Really. You know, I often feel, what is success? You know, we get all these images of success is wealth and power and influence and all that. Does anyone like that sort of image? I don't like that. I don't think that's, to me, success is to be happy. How many people would say in their heart, I really feel happy most of the time? That's a successful human being to me.
Thank you. There's a question from the onliners. One brother Prem Bhai, he says, I have been too busy focusing the skeletons in cupboard. I forgot to acknowledge Baba's treasures. Should we be more focused on the virtues and powers instead?
Been too busy, what was that?
Too busy focusing on the skeletons in the cupboard.
Ah. Yeah, sometimes I think, I used to feel that, you know, we've all been religious, and when we follow the path of religion and rubbish comes up inside of us, the skeletons, the messy bits, we all carry things inside. Religion sort of says, you know, you should be sweet, you should be nice. So what we developed this habit to suppress ourselves, push things down. So you sort of have a personality for the world, and then you have another person's sitting inside. And then what happened was that psychology came along with the idea to be more honest about the dark side of the soul. But then so many people get lost in those skeletons, so to speak. They're just so much self-analysis. You know, we go too much into that extreme. To me, spirituality is really being absolutely honest who I am and spending time transforming it. Not spending time in the now analyzing why I'm like this, why I feel like this, but actually applying truth to change those things. This is the path of self-transformation. And I feel that the more we practice, and when you change something deep in yourself, I think that's one of the best feelings in life. Because otherwise we feel a victim of ourselves, we feel a victim of our own fears, our own worries, our own anxieties. And when you can free yourself from those, what an incredible thing that really is. And that's really, in a way, that's why I feel we're at a time we can listen to things, we can read, we can go on YouTube. Actually, all of us know so much. How much do we know? But the time is saying practice, regularly study, regularly meditate. And it's actually spirituality is all day, every day, in an easy, gentle way. I'm observing myself. I'm learning about myself. I'm observing my reactions, changing my reactions. And really a spiritual person, if someone's rude and difficult and I get upset, the person with knowledge will look at the self and think, why did I get upset by that? The person without knowledge will blame the person. And this is why spirituality is really looking at me and what I need to change. I feel it's just nothing more important at this time than really to be practicing a spiritual life and being that honest with myself. Yeah. Yes, please. Sorry.
Future without fear.
Yes.
Today's topic is future without fear. So in this today's topic, I have a question, but I have a fear how to ask it. So that is my fear, because now people are asking, asking question or answering it.
Many people they are saying.
Yeah. So I feel that I have to ask a question, right? But once I feel that I have to ask a question, like others are asking, fear came to me how to ask, right? And my question is now, see, I classify the people in three parts: spirituality people, non-spiritual people, and the semi-spiritual people. Three parts. It is definitely those who are spirituality 100% is they don't have any fear. And those are totally non-spirituality. They don't know what is spirituality. They also don't have fear because they don't care the life. They can do anything in the world. They can destroy the world. They don't care. So those are semi-spirituality, like many. They don't have the fears. And they are creating fears also for others. Right? So my question is also, I am getting fear how to ask it about the cockroach. The fear of the cockroach. Now totally India has a fear of the cockroach presently. One small boy of 30 years old, he created a cockroach Janata Party. Cockroach Janata Party. The Indian, he created not political party. He created Cockroach Janata Party, 30 years boy in USA. And entire India government is now here. So in this, it's a political party, it's not political party.
Digital platform.
So, it is totally India government is the body.
What's the
Question is how this kind of fear is coming? How, we also like a spiritual person, how we control, manage it. Because, somebody can create anything. So that's why I say how to ask also not fear. I can't ask it properly. But this is the fear in the entire India now. This is just recently developed, 15 days ago.
Somebody answer.
She also has the same question, Shalima. She also has the same question.
Okay. Can we just wait if I can just hear the question? It's a bit unclear.
Same question.
Same question.
Same question.
No. You can answer, otherwise I'll give you.
Because that 30 years boy, they don't care at all. In our PM Modi, world is taking responding him, but he doesn't care. Everybody will care for cockroach. And they are saying, I am cockroach. I am asking because, you know, madam, what is the question you can just help me to ask?
Okay, it is, he made a group, you can see, WhatsApp, he make a group like that, he has made a group in a global platform. So, and the digital reviews also is too many. And he is asking any question about or anything, like this thing is wrong, something like that, and there are too many followers of that. So how, millions, yes, millions of. 1 million followers, like that. So
And they're all
how
young
can
ones.
a person sitting in US or somewhere not related at all, he's Indian,
Yes, yes.
he's Indian. So how he can put some question or put some view his idea and then people follow him. Just blindly they are following him.
And
And he's bringing fear to the others.
But this is the nature of the world at the moment, I think, that, you know, this
Sounds
week
like
it's
a
that,
vacuum, yeah.
next week it's something else, you know, like, because human beings are so body conscious at the moment, and so we can create fear out of almost anything at this time, because it's a world of fear. And one way I look at it too is when 8.1 billion people are pumping out thoughts of anxiety into the atmosphere, it's infecting all of us actually. And all of us feel sort of more and more edgy. The anxiety, fear levels are growing. And I just think that it goes back to what we've been talking about all night, that unless I ground myself in truth and I keep my mind in truth, otherwise my mind just imagines all these fears, all these outcomes, all these things. And that's the culture. And we're getting caught up in this global vibration of fear that's everywhere. Even speaking in public, you know, it's one of the main fears of a lot of people. And I once saw someone a survey, would you prefer to speak in public or swim in a tank of sharks? And some people chose to swim in the tank of sharks. You know, we have so much fear. Why do we even fear speaking in public? Because we feel judged. We feel, and this is why some people really feel. There's so much fear, there's thousands of fears in life. And these things like this platform, it's just yet another wave, and that'll go and there'll be another wave. But I think, Perkin, did you want to say something?
You answer it.
Right.
But practically, I'll give you an example. Like, for example, you're watching this, I just ignore it. In 1982, when you have Brahmins here, right? 1982, in Kenya, there was a coup, attempted coup, failed. In that, shops were looted, Indian shops, houses were looted. Some were killed, some people died, some people were raped. Now, no, it's okay. I'm not going to see it. So the center became a center of information. Everybody would call you, this is happening in our area, this is happening. It just lasted from morning or 3 o'clock to midday, down and back. So one week we didn't go to class, and then Vedanti being a messenger soul, on Thursday went to Baba. So Baba asked her, have children been more in remembrance or more in talk? Ben being very clever said, no, about 50-50, Baba said. Children have been more in discussions and talks rather than remembering. And where there is talk means discussions, there is fear. Where there is remembrance, there is no fear. That's the answer. Then Baba said, has anything happened which Baba is not going to about? Someone's house was looted, someone's shop was looted, someone's dignity was looted, somebody's body was looted.
Now, we being body conscious, even I was wondering, how do we do the body? But Baba is looking at it from a soul conscious point of view, that somebody is shot, the soul is also body. And what do we say? He has died, who has died? So once Baba said that message, then said, okay, we're going to do yoga, but it's from morning till night. She sat, she can be quite determined. She sat 12 hours, means, and we all followed suit. In no time, we forgot everything that was going on in the world. We were so happy, we were dancing, and Baba really gave us a lift. So this is why we are here, because you're looking at, you're thinking about it. Our job is to be light. A lot of events happening in the world, like Brother Charlie said, and everybody has a lot of them. A lot of people are, why is this happening in Dhaka? What is our life? We have a ruler here who has done a lot of not nice things. Small children, when 20 years, Gen Z, they have been kidnapped, adopted, killed, and there's a lot of negative talk. Why should we talk about this? Let's get into it. That's my point. We've been trained to do. And things will get worse, like Brother Charlie. So what is our job? On whose side are we? Baba's side or the other side? Once there was an election coming up, and she being a messenger, Baba gave message, do programs. But she said, but Baba, there is an election coming. So Baba said, what is the job of a fire engine? To run from the fire or to go and put out the fire? Baba, we will do it after election. So Baba says, if a child is to be born, you will say, no, don't come now, you come after election. You see? So our job, remember what is our job. Don't get into all this. You know what you don't know. And Baba has already told us all this. What's going to happen? Destruction is going to take place. Civil is going to take place. Baba is saying, Charlie Bhai would know just one sentence. Military rule will come in. Baba said this many years back. Charlie Bhai, you know that? The Delhi connection with the major. Yeah, so it's going to happen. What can enjoy the show?
Maybe you will have one more question. Sure. I'm sorry?
So, brother mentions that, he asked a question to you, whether you are in Baba's side or other side. Does humanity have two sides? Other side means, what is our job?
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. I think we're going to let's have a few minutes of meditation, powerful meditation. Let's have good wishes for our world, good wishes for each other, and then we'll have some tutorial. So, thank you so much, everyone.
I rise with the sun, my journey begins. This day is a treasure, the moment within. I'm not this body, I'm light, I'm free. Baba's child of eternity. No more excuses, no more delay. I choose his truth, I walk his way. Baba's angel, fearless, bright. A yogi's soul, I live his life. I choose His truth, I walk His way. Baba's angel, fearless, bright, a yogi soul, I live His life. I belong to Baba, Baba to me. No more excuses. I am free.
Next to Charlie, wonderful.